go. We are live. Hi, everyone. We are live. Sunday, October 6th, 2024, shortly after this Dolphins thrilling, scintillating, exciting, okay, fine, it was just very important, win against the New England Patriots by the score of 15-10. I came close. I actually had 13-10 in my official prediction on Miami Dolphins on SI, and kind of figured it would be a butt ugly game, and that's what it was.
Yeah, you prognosticated the crap. It was probably one of your easier predictions over your long, illustrious NFL coverage career. But congratulations to you for surviving. Congratulations to me for surviving. Everybody watching right now, congratulations. And take the win. It was heart-stopping at the end. It looked like things were going to face plant. Maybe one more Patriots play, and they were going to be on the wrong side of it, but just take it. Just take it.
Yeah, and again, this is a bad, with a capital B, New England team, and the one thing that team had not done so far this season is hurt itself, and they had like 12, 27, 33 penalties.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins also a lot. And as I looked at the replay on a lot of these penalties, certainly looked to me like the refs were a tad flag happy, where there are a couple of them that really necessarily didn't need to be called there, and that includes on both sides. So it wasn't like the Dolphins got shafted or New England got shafted. Again, it seemed to me like the officials wanted to make themselves part of the story of the game, which they never should be.
No. They did get the biggest call right, though, and I have the proof in front of me. The touchdown that wasn't for the New England Patriots that would have given them, in all likelihood, the win. If you go to the NFL rule book, the 2011 case book, approved ruling 15.79. It's a vague rule, but the same rule that wiped out the Patriots touchdown, wiped out touchdowns in 2022 from Julio Jones and T. Higgins, separated by 2 weeks in the end zone. A heel and then lift and then out of bounds counts as a complete catch. If both toes come in and then there's no other contact, it counts as a full foot. But if you're facing the quarterback and a toe hits in bounds and then a step comes down and the heel comes out of bounds, incomplete. That rule was applied correctly. So any Patriots fans who want to whine and complain about it, the officials got it right.
Except it's an entire – no, it's absolutely the correct call. And Dean Blandino on the Fox broadcast said as much. Whether it's a stupid rule, which it is, that's certainly the discussion for another day. It certainly worked out in the Dolphins' favor. I hated that it came down that close. I mean, New England's offense did nothing the entire game, and all of a sudden they almost drove down the field. And not to be overly picky because the Dolphins won, but what the hell was that coverage on that 19-yard completion to Demario Douglas where Jalen Ramsey's playing in the slot and giving him 8 yards of cushion?
I mean, there was the final two Patriots possessions, and that includes the one where they get inside the 10, but time runs out because the Patriots don't have any timeouts. There was so much room in the middle of the field, and I understand it on the final possession, but with the Patriots marching down the field, one, you're getting gouged right up the gut on the run by Stevenson, and then there is nothing but real estate in the middle, and I get that the Dolphins are playing zone. That said, I mean, there is no desire to go and try and meet the football at any point. That was easy for the Patriots, way easier than it should have been. And I thought that was kind of soft, Poop. Like, that was losing defense that the Dolphins ended up getting fortunate playing and winning this game.
Except I agree with you, but I'm going to give props to Anthony Weaver because at the end of that drive, after the touchdown was overturned, then he sent the blitz on third down and on fourth down. I mean, and on fourth down, that was a jailhouse break. I mean, they had 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. They all came. So props for that. To me, the most encouraging part of this game, by the way, the passing game showed signs of life, which you would expect, because Tyler Huntley has another week in the system. 2, because Teron Armstead's back there protecting him. And 3, because New England has no pass rush. But to me, the most encouraging aspect of this game was the running game.
Yes.
And Mostert ran very, very well. And Jalen Wright, who has done so every time he's gotten a chance, continues to look really, really good.
I felt very good for Alec Ingold. And he's been banged up, and much like everybody on this roster, I mean, hell, at this point, Poop, you and I are banged up just being associated with talking about the Dolphins, and that's just age on our part. But
speak for yourself, right?
I thought that he on the eventual game-winning drive, and this was all game, but especially on the eventual game-winning drive, I mean, that guy was throwing blocks and sealing edges like his career, like his life depended on it. That drive doesn't happen if Alec Ingold is not leading the way on at least 4 of those runs. And keep in mind, Poop, they ran 7 straight times to get themselves into the end zone. And for Ingold to be the one that's able to capitalize, put the exclamation point on that drive, I felt good about that. Alec Ingold was a winning player for the Dolphins, and they don't win if he does not go ham on that game-winning possession.
Agree. And while it worked out in the end, I'm going to play second-guessing play caller here.
Sure.
On that final drive after you made the goal line center, whether it was not technically not goal line, but the late defensive stand, instead of handing to Raheem Mostert 3 straight times up the middle, why not on third down, bootleg it with Tyler Huntley? And if you tell him, if you don't have a clear path to the first down, slide, get your butt down so the clock keeps running, which I think gives you a better chance than just straight ahead, which is what New England was expecting.
That's perfectly said. I agree with you. I agree with you. And here's the thing. It might be easy for people to say, oh, Poop, you're being picky there. But you've got to put your offense. We've been talking about it for weeks. Your offense in the best position to succeed. That is pretty common sense football right there. And it just on a day where I thought that McDaniel for the first time really streamlined things. You didn't have the motion penalties. You didn't have the extreme motion before the snap. You had Tyler Huntley in a more comfortable situation, and the production followed. That right there was almost overthinking it a little bit. That was outthinking yourself. That wasn't going that extra step. So I agree with you 100%. But overall, and we'll talk about this more, Mike McDaniel for the first time stepped off this smartest man in the room. It's got to be my offense or bust type of deal that we've seen the last couple of weeks. It was simplified, and I it's so satisfying to at least see that. Was it ugly? Sure, but it's going to have to be. Like, that's the reality. It's just going to have to be like this.
And the reality is, chances are the Dolphins lose today if they play 20 different teams not called the Patriots. But Guess what? That's who they were playing. So it was okay to call a game the way they did, which included going on for a 47-yard field goal attempt on 4th and 2. I think they were down 10-6 at the time because, again, chances are you're not going to need a ton of points to beat the Patriots, who are offensively challenged even more so than what the Dolphins have been. Today was the day where Odell Beckham Jr. made his long-awaited debut for the Dolphins. It was rather uneventful. He didn't have a catch.
Yeah.
The one time he was targeted. Great play by cornerback Christian Gonzalez, who's a hell of a player, by the way.
Yeah.
Jumped in front of the slant and made the pick on the tough catch. And he would have had another pick in the end zone, and this would save the Dolphins 3 points. I want to say if Tyreek Hill doesn't punch the ball away from him after Huntley threw it late after pressure. So good job by Tyreek there. And Tyreek, again, showed signs of life in terms of production. With 6 for 69, I think it was. It wasn't like the 150 yards we're used to seeing from him, but again, step in the right direction.
I wanted to bring up as well here, Poop. I love tight ends, and you know me long enough, and especially this season, all I've been preaching is, please, can we get tight ends involved in this offense at any point in this decade? And Jonnu Smith, 5 catches, 62 yards. He was significant to extend drives on a day where third downs were really difficult to come by for both teams. And I thought Jonnu Smith really showed up. And Tyler Huntley went out of his way to try and incorporate him into the offense. And listen, Tyler Huntley, I don't know what his contributions past week 8 are going to be, but he's been in places, and especially in Baltimore, where they live by the tight end. That is a massive part of their offense, and it is clear that he values the tight end. And I thought it was very encouraging, as ugly as today was, that Jonnu Smith, he actually is on this team, and he can contribute, and the quarterback wants to look for him. Tight ends matter in this offense. They can matter. They especially matter when you dumb it down like the Dolphins did today. That, to me, was one of the bright spots of the day for the Dolphins.
Yep. And again, I haven't seen Tyler Huntley's final numbers. They weren't great, but he made some throws. And again, a couple of drops. Jalen Waddle had a pass he should have caught. Jonnu Smith on a play where Tyler Huntley scrambled to his right. It kind of looked like he got caught in his footing, didn't make the proper adjustment. That seemed like a catchable ball that would have been for a good gain.
Yep.
So it was a really nice step forward for Huntley. And then moving forward, the other part of it we should mention is the Dolphins now are a game out of first place in the AFC East because Buffalo lost against Houston.
Yep.
So
and Josh Allen, you don't know what his health is. He ended up leaving that game. So who knows? Did he come back in? I thought he had been kept in the 10. All right. So he came back in, but the Bills are objectively the last 2 weeks not playing good football, and albeit playing good teams, but they have not looked competitive except for flashes today late against Houston. They have not looked great. The Jets, that offense looks listless, and Aaron Rodgers seems upset and hurt. Robert Saleh head shaking on the sideline. Yeah, all things considered, like, this division is going to end up being wide open. You've got to tread water. So this is where you're talking about it, Poop. Like, today was ugly. It was, oh boy, stomach churning and nauseating. And what am I watching? This isn't the same sport as what the Chiefs play. But if this allows you to tread water, if you can get on that little piece of wood in the ocean as the rest of your boat capsizes, it's okay. Like, give yourself a chance. That's all I'm asking for right now.
Correct. No, without question. And something I noticed also, because I watch a lot of that Jets game against the Vikings and the Dolphins game. I don't know about it anywhere else in the NFL, but my Lord, are wide receivers not helping quarterbacks. I don't see like the really, really, really tough catches. And this has nothing to do with the Dolphins game, but Aaron Rodgers made a couple of throws where there's only one spot to put it, either back shoulder or to the side, and the receivers are not coming up with a tough catch.
Well, Mike Williams lost that game at the end for the Jets. That's a back shoulder throw, and he's turning the wrong way, and he gets intercepted. And like, that's just, I don't know if that's bad communication, but I feel like that's on the only receiver that I look at that I can say consistently he's helping his quarterback is Justin Jefferson. In that same game today, where Justin Jefferson didn't get a target until the final Vikings possession to help put it away, and he was sensational. But other than that, you're right. It's been a glut of where's the help for the quarterback, and we're used to these acrobatic catches and fingertip stuff. It hasn't happened so far, and it's not happening with the Jets especially, who should be a strength of theirs.
Correct. A couple of other quick notes before we get to the viewer comments, questions portion of this live post-game episode. By the way, I never introduced you because you don't need any introduction. Again, Ken LaVicka, ESPN sports radio talk show host, and looks like Baltimore is about to win in overtime against Cincinnati. And I'm crazy. And this is first world problems, because it's our job, forced to watch the Dolphins-Patriots game, which was a snooze fest. Meanwhile, this is a 38-38 game. Buffalo-Houston came down to the wire. Yeah. Indy-Jacksonville was 37-34. We had to watch 15 times. Right. But this is a change from the past couple of years, because the Dolphins have been a very exciting team. They're not this year. They're not right now. But they were good signs. Odell Beckham Jr., don't worry, it was his first game back. He's going to be integrated in the offense slowly, gradually. It's not going to be every game like this. If anybody expected him to come in and have 5 for 73 with a touchdown, I think that was unrealistic. And another point I want to make is Julian Hill's getting on my nerves. Not as a person, as a player.
Yes.
I mean, dude, seriously.
Kills them. He kills them. I mean, a hold wipes out, and ultimately the Dolphins were able to overcome this, but a hold wipes out, getting inside the 10 with Jalen Wright, a sensational run on a possession where all you did was churn out yardage, but that could have been killer. That should have been killer, but the Patriots just wilted after that. That defense was exhausted, and the offensive line had their way, but I mean, Poop, it's what we've been saying for the last few weeks. He is a walking flag. It's either blown assignments or he's picking up critical penalties. It's not good enough, and they have to have him out there because of, well, numbers, and he's part of their personnel in certain packages. he has made maybe one or two positive plays all year. It's that bad.
Yep. And speaking of bad penalties, Jalen Ramsey, what the hell are you thinking? Slapping Jacoby Brissett, running by him after you blitz and the ball's out.
I saw some people on social media poop like, oh, wasn't that hard? No, get your hands down. There's no reason for that. And you're a veteran and you're a leader on this team. That was just silly and dumb.
Yeah, it was like, what? And for those who care what's going on around the NFL, Baltimore did indeed beat the Bengals 41-38 in overtime after Evan McPherson, who's a great kicker for the Bengals, missed a field goal. May have gotten blocked, which brings us to the Dolphins. We haven't talked about this yet. The special teams snafus, like, oh my God. So where do we start? Blocked punt, missed field goal, and then the botched field goal attempt where Blake Ferguson rolled a snap to holder Jake Bailey.
Let me ask you, Poop. I'm just going to lay it out.
I don't know, Ken. I know the question that's coming. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm playing Kreskin over here. The question is, why does Danny Crossman still has a job as Dolphins defensive special teams coordinator? I don't know.
Because this is not isolated. This is not hey, it's just one game. This has been all season long. To this point, it's been inconsistent. You've had multiple punts blocked. Your field goal unit can't get the job done. You've got penalties on special teams. You had a special teams penalty that lined up your opponent at your 10-yard line in the previous game. So this is a problem. And if there's going to be changes here, and I would say Danny Crossman probably fortunate that the Dolphins won this game, because then the pressure gets real loud for Mike McDaniel to do something with the coaching staff, and there would be no doubt who the first person to see some sort of ramifications is, and that would be Danny Crossman.
Yeah, and this is nothing personal, but it's a result-based business, and the reality is, if you look at the Rick Gosselin special teams rankings that he does every year out of the Dallas Morning News, I don't know if he's still there, but that's where he started those. They rank every special teams unit based on 22 statistical categories. In Danny Crossman's 5 years as Dolphins special teams coordinator, they've been in the 20s, like 22nd or lower every year but one. I think 1 year they finished 7th. It may have been the 2020 year when Jason Sanders couldn't miss. And he's not that guy anymore. But Jason Sanders always get a lot of leeway from me because he comes through in the clutch almost every single solitary time. But there have been issues after issue after issue after issue, and at some point it's like, it's not sustainable,
right? And so I think that there's going to be some that are saying, "Man, this was a win. You're being too hard on the." No, again. The Dolphins came into this season saying they were Super Bowl contenders, and so they're held to that standard. They're not even close to that. I've recalibrated my expectations to, can they tread water to put themselves into a spot where they're competing for a playoff spot in Week 18, okay? That's where I've recalibrated. What I will say is that we just talked about that final, the Ravens, 9 touchdowns combined, by the way, between Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, and the last Lamar Jackson touchdown throw is the touchdown throw of the year, where he retreated 30 yards and still picked out a receiver in the back of the end zone. But if you're the Dolphins, you did something that the Bengals on their home field couldn't do in Week 1, and it started this avalanche of inconsistent to bad play. The Bengals season is just about done at this point. You can confidently say the Bengals year, barring something miraculous, is just about done, and it started with a loss to the Patriots. The Dolphins, with injuries all over the place, and with Tyler Huntley, who was in Baltimore at the time that Week 1 was taking place, you win into Foxborough, a place you never used to win, and you once again picked up a victory, Dolphins over Patriots, and you did it with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. So that is good. If that can maybe push back on you guys are piling on. All right. Because at least, that's the bright spot. Take it. It's a good thing.
No, without question, because at the end of the year, nobody's going to care how this win looked. It's going to look like a W in the standings. And eventually, here's the deal. If the Dolphins are going to make a playoff run, they're going to have to pick up their game and find their game. And if they do, this will have been part of the step toward regaining their game. Like today, for example, incorporated the tight end, got the running game going a little bit, but it allows them, again, the opportunity, because if they could play a really good game and lose, that puts him further down behind the 8 ball in the standing. So
yeah. Poop, one more thing I wanted to point out, and you wrote something about Emmanuel Ogbah earlier in the week about how, what if he wasn't here?
Man, right?
He wasn't going to be here. And then 11th hour, out of desperation, he had to be here. And he was fantastic again today. I mean, him and Sealer and Calais Campbell are the constants right now along a defensive front that is overperforming based on the depth that actually exists there. Ogbah is a big part of that. You can't mention Campbell and Sealer without mentioning Emmanuel Ogbah. That it sort of fell in the Dolphins' lap proverbially that he is with this team. But man, what a bonus that has been, because again, without him, this team's winless right now.
I would make the argument also that Ogbah is playing better than probably what the Dolphins would have gotten from Shaq Barrett. And
yes.
It turned out to be luck to me that nobody picked up Ogbah, whose contract had been terminated, so he could be negotiated to a rather low salary, and nobody picked him up. And he was there for the taking when the Dolphins needed a replacement for Shaq Barrett, and it was like, come on back, Emmanuel. Yeah. And this was also nice that there were no bridges burned when the Dolphins released him in the offseason, to where phone call, yeah, you want to come back?
Right.
Let's do it. So are we ready to tackle some of our viewer comments?
Let's do it.
Was that you stretching, Garrett?
Stretching, getting loose, limbering up before we embark on this journey.
I do that too hard and it hurts. So I got to be careful. This is where the age comes in. Don Shula, 73. Thank you very much, Don, for the contribution. Special teams coach needs to go. Bookies punt. You mean block punts? Pre-snap penalties, just awful. It's really, really, really hard to argue with that. And for those wondering, and for those who question the toughness of the South Florida media, the Dolphin beat writers, Mike McDaniel literally was asked that question point blank: why is Denny Crossman back as special teams coach? And this was at the Combine in Indianapolis, and basically the answer was, if we thought it was a case of the coaching, we would make a change, but it's not the coaching, it's the players not doing what they're supposed to do. So
okay, but and I don't like answers like that, though, because why aren't the players doing what they're supposed to do? There's got to be some accountability. That's just, to me, that's always skirting accountability. I'm not going to. I don't like outright saying this coach needs to be fired. It's not in my nature. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. But when we read a comment like that, Poop, how can I argue with that? Danny Crossman needs to go. How do I defend him? That's the problem. I have no ammunition to defend Danny Crossman against being the first of this Mike McDaniel coaching staff to get jettisoned if he tries to shake things up here as we approach a bye week. You're right. It's not good. That unit is suffering, and the same guy's been there for a handful of seasons, and it's becoming detrimental to the quest to win football games. Like, yeah, he probably, if you were to say who's the first coach that would go, I would say Danny Crossman. 2
quick points here. Then the counter argument would be, why were you making any changes? You just won going into your bye. And then number 2, this is where I kind of push back, and this is one of the things I do probably more so than other South Florida media members who cover the team on a regular basis, is I will always tell you, what is Mike McDaniel supposed to say? You didn't like his answer. I agree, but again, what's he going to say?
Guy sucks, but I owe him some money. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
You don't want me to fire him.
Yeah. Like, okay. But it's the tough thing, though, because anybody with a functioning frontal cortex and eyes that are working properly can see that there's a major problem with that facet of this football team. And who's the one in charge of that football team? It's Danny Crossman. So when you start to get not only those who know the game, but those who are casually watching the game, and they all come to the same conclusion that, boy, that really sucks. It's tough to fight against that any longer.
Can't disagree there. Noel B1. Hey, Noel, thank you very much for the contribution. That was fugly. Defense rocks, though. We'll take barely winning over nearly winning any day. Absolutely. That's the bottom line. But again, the only thing with the defense, that bugaboo of the one long run. And this is where, since we sang his praises earlier, Emmanuel Ogbah needs to take a ding on that long touchdown run because he was the edge on the left side and he got himself jammed up inside, and that allowed Stevenson to go outside, and then the secondary all got blocked and couldn't disengage or miss tackles, and that allowed for a 33-yard touchdown run.
Speaking of the defense as a whole, can we agree that of all the units on defense, the defensive line, not only has the defensive line been the best surprise, they've been, I think, the best grouping, the best position group on the entire defense. Am I wrong on that conclusion? I'm so impressed with what they do with the lack of depth that presents up there. I think that's the best room of the defense is that defensive front.
Yep. No, while you were saying that, it got me thinking about the secondary, and I'll point out a couple of things with my friend Cater Kohu. Number one, thank you, Cater. Good job. That coverage against Jalen Polk down the right sideline, and he turned around to make a play on the ball. but then later, he completely grabbed the guy's shirt like this. So I think it was on the next to the last drive. I mean, in the middle of the field, you're actually expecting to get away with that?
Right.
Dude, seriously? And then, sorry, Ken. Then two other plays. First drive, he whiffs on Stevenson in the open field on a third down tackle that would have stopped the drive. But then later on, he came in and got Stevenson down in the backfield one-on-one. So it was a good and bad day for Cater.
Cater Kohu, I've just accepted it's going to be feast or famine with him. He's such an aggressive player, and I keep trying to tell myself, like, he's still learning to play the outside defensively. That was not his natural position when he was brought in, and he's been sort of floated and placed different locations within the defense. So we're a couple of years in, though, to him fully acclimating himself, and it's got to be better because he does make these bonehead penalties or he doesn't whip his head around. This is not the first time you've mentioned in these post-game sessions this season, Cater Kohu, and especially when it has a receiver pinned against the sideline, use it to your advantage and turn your head around. And you're right, he did it today, but he's so aggressive and he's so grabby. And he's not the surest tackler. He's a hard hitter, but he's not the surest tackler. And those are two different things. And everything was on full display here today. I'm with you. He's got to be on the field. That's the problem. He has to be on the field because he does provide a benefit, but you've got to deal with the fact that at least 2 or 3 times a game, he's going to attempt to kill you defensively.
I like him as a tackler better than you do. And that I do want to point out something, that this is something we were not expecting, that we had several times today, that Jalen Ramsey was lining up in the slot and they had Kohu on the outside.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. This has not necessarily been part of the pattern before. Mike Best. Hey, Mike, thank you very much. What is the chance Huntley stays as the backup? I am assuming that means once and if Tua returns to action. So Tua Tyler Huntley jumping Skylar Thompson. That's a good question. That's a good question. I think I don't know that the Dolphins are going to give up on Skylar Thompson that quickly. My best guess is they would keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53.
Yeah. So you'd have to say goodbye to Tim Boyle for good.
Well, he's on the practice squad now. So
right. And he was the backup today after being re-signed to the practice squad. Yeah, they have this. Mike McDaniel has this love affair with Skylar Thompson. I think Tyler Huntley, at least today, started the process of making them think about it, at least consider it. And if he coming off the bye can put together another couple of games where they either win out or win one of them and they stay afloat, it's going to be hard for them to justify sticking with Skylar Thompson once the chest fully heals up. Today was a good step for Tyler Huntley, and I thought he played. Was he fantastic? No. Did he play winning football at times? Yeah, like that's inarguable and something we didn't see Skylar Thompson do pre-injury in Seattle.
Correct, but this is where one could mention the level of competition wasn't quite the same, if we're going to be honest about it. So
that's a good point. No, you're right. But the Patriots defense also is not horrible. It's not horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. There's no pass rush.
Mind you, there's no pass rush. They have when healthy, a good starting secondary. Christian Gonzalez is a stud. Their two safeties are pretty good. Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. Guess what? Neither of them played today.
Right.
So, again, see, this is why I don't know. I still think Skylar would get another shot, but they would carry 3 on the 53. That's my best guess. Mike again, and again, thank you very much, Mike. Still here with you, Poop. Watch every day. Do you think we got something with the run game today? And in goal was stellar. Absolutely, the running game was very, very, very impressive. Mostert ran very well, and Jalen Wright, who I've liked from the beginning, still think it was a completely what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? When you overkill pick a little bit because they already had Mostert and HN, except that HN even before the concussion today. And by the way, this is one where you look at the replay and sure as hell looked to me like helmet to helmet.
Yes,
which was missed. But the magic is not there this year.
Yeah, they reached a little bit. You think they reached a little bit with Jalen Wright?
Well, he's a hell of a player, but again, if you're a team that's on the cusp of Super Bowl contention, which the Dolphins claim to be heading into the season, why would it was not necessarily a necessary pick, especially when you squandered a 3rd-round pick for next year.
Right.
Looking big picture, sure, it's a good pick because who knows how long Mostert is going to be on the roster. So it depends how you view it.
It just felt like it was, there's a fast guy. Let's bring him in. We love fast. We love speed. But he was critical today, and obviously couldn't have foreseen everything that was going to lead up to this. But it matters when Raheem Mostert's healthy. It matters when Raheem Mostert is the main back. And I know when healthy, there are a lot of Dolphins fans out there that are desperate to see HN as the feature back in this offense. And this is where I push back because Raheem Mostert, when healthy, he can be a workhorse. He breaks tackles. He's tough. He follows blocks. And then it makes HN much more dangerous. And that allows you to then shift him into the slot. He can maybe be that 3 wide receiver in certain packages, but Mostert is a must if this football team is going to win because everybody's a great compliment off of him, but he's the standard in the running game. And that's shown brightly today when you have Armstead on the left and you have Mostert carrying the football. Things are going, and Ingold being healthy and leading the way, that's going to help your running game over and over and over again. And that last possession especially, we saw that with the 7 straight runs and overcoming the brutal Julian Hill penalty and finding the end zone.
A very good point. If this were, what show is it? The show with the sports writer where they award points for making.
PTI.
PTI is Wilbon and the other guy, Kornheiser. This is
on the horn.
Whatever. So, but anyway, ding, 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 ding for you. Yeah, you got some points there.
Thanks, Tony Reale.
There you go. Thank you. Robert Booz, thank you very much for the contribution. Tua back and healthy, a running game in this defense. They could be decent, not great, but decent. F. Belichick, by the way. Okay. I have no idea why Belichick's catching a stray here when he's no longer coaching the Patriots, but okay. I think they can be more than decent, but they have to find their game because even I wasn't overly impressed with them in the season opener, and before Tua went out against Buffalo, they looked overmatched. But I do think the potential is there for them to be more than decent. Do I see a Super Bowl contender here? No. But again, there's still 12 games left to be played.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's still a lot of football to be played, but I think if you live in a rational world, you're not sitting here thinking, yeah, we're going to be busy in that first week of February. There's just not enough there, and this team refuses to stay healthy, and that's just not something that miraculously changes. When it trends this direction for years and years and years with this core group of not being able to stay healthy, I don't know what to tell you, but I don't think that this season is dead. Like the Bengals, I think that's dead. The Dolphins, I still think that there's a chance to pull this thing out of the gutter.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties here with some language in the background here. What happened?
When Dolphins post-game gets real.
Exactly. Okay, we'll go to our next comment on the live podcast of the All Dolphins podcast here. Birthday Salami, thank you very much for the contribution. How subtle was that?
That was amazing.
Jalen White has usurped. That's a great word. I love that word. HN as number 2, can run inside with speed. By the way, why not roll out Huntley more and get him out in space and put pressure on the D? No, did he? Yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I don't agree with Jalen Wright usurping, and again, great word, usurping Achane. Now, that might have to be the case based on what the significance of the Achane head injury ends up being. It might be Jalen Wright having to be placed in that spot as the number 2. What I think is fun, though, Achane comes back, is healthy. Raheem Mostert can stay healthy. What could you do with your rookie, your speedy rookie, right? Like it's kind of cool to think about if things can fortify, but that would have to entail the Dolphins staying healthy. And then oh, that's a funny joke. But no, he has not usurped Devon Achane as the number 2. Achane is still the most explosive player on this offense, not named Tyreek Hill.
With the speed, yeah, except it hasn't been there this year. So I don't disagree with you, and maybe it's a little premature to say that, but the one who's been the most impressive looking of the 2 has been Jalen Wright. So, but how about all 3 play?
Off of that, rolling out a guy like Tyler Huntley or rolling out quarterbacks, period. Like I watch a lot of college football. I am involved in college football an intense amount, and I can't tell you, in goal line packages or even inside the 10, how many bootlegs I see. Successful. We saw Thursday night a couple of Baker Mayfield inside the 10, roll them out, easy touchdowns. Guys with not 8 yards around him catching touchdown passes, yet the Dolphins refuse to ever bootleg or go play action in a scoring situation. And I know it's not just scoring situation. It could be anywhere on the field, but especially when it's time to score the football. That is one of my biggest critiques with Mike McDaniel as a play caller is, come on, man. We've got all this motion and these inside runs and these exotic formations behind the quarterback or alongside the quarterback. How about a damn bootleg? And just try and find an open receiver instead of throwing the fade to an undersized Jalen Waddle or a Tyreek Hill or a non-existent tight end. Bootleg something, please, please. So the point stands. I agree.
Okay, and I have one pet peeve with some of the things that Dolphins don't do. How about, for craps and giggles, in a 3rd and short situation, you bring in an extra offensive lineman?
Wait, no, Poop. What?
I'm kooky like that.
Oh, you overload one? No, come on. That's only a basic offensive standpoint and presentation, Poop. No, you're getting crazy. Stop.
Okay, well, again, maybe, and I know it's extreme, but maybe just wants to try it. Okay.
Just once. Just dabble in it, maybe.
Okay, here we go. Again, guys, as we look through these comments, I'm certainly not gonna include any of those where you guys are talking to each other or insulting each other worse. So, if your comment does not get read, such is life. Danny August, keep running the ball. Big dose of Mostert. Yeah, he's certainly got a big dose of Mostert, and it's good to have him back. Okay, there's some comments here written before the end of the game. This is what happens when you're right before the game. Dude 67. Dolphins are playing so good, we're definitely going to get the first pick in the draft this year. No, they're not. No. I did, full disclosure, after the blocked punt. No, I'm sorry. This was after the botched field goal right before half. I said that it feels like the Dolphins are top 5 pick bad. Now, I'm going to rescind that. But when they're at their worst, they look like one of the worst teams in the league. Like, they look like they can't do anything right. And so they sort of found a way to grind this win out. They're not top 5 pick bad. But, man, I get the reactions of fans who watch this dreck that we saw for a good, 45 of 60 minutes in this game today. And they think to themselves, man, are they going to pick high up in the draft? Because when the Dolphins are bad, and we saw them bad at times, I can really only name a handful of teams where I can confidently say they're worse than the Dolphins. Maybe not even.
a handful of teams when the Dolphins go full bad mode. And you've got Mike McDaniel again standing on the sideline, no facial expressions, just sort of looking out the side of his eye, trying to figure out, evaluate his life, those things he's been doing the last couple of weeks since things started going poorly. So did I overreact? Sure. Are Dolphins fans overreacting a bit? Sure.
No, Dolphins fans don't do that.
No, but when they're bad, they look bad, and they look top 5 pick bad. So I get it.
Okay, I have to put this one by Noel here. It's funny. Gonna take bran muffins in a few hours to relax my sphincter. That's funny. Ryan Laporta, better than the loss. Chris Poupart, thanks for keeping me sane this week.
Good job, Poop.
Why is it you put your last name but you call me Poupart? That's something not balanced right there.
I do like that you provide a service to the community. You're not only providing good Dolphins coverage, but you're helping people's mental health as well.
I'm big on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Lucky 7 2024 Garbage Bowl winners. Guess what? There's a rematch in November. And
wait for that.
Before, when the schedule comes out every year, I do a story ranking the games by degree of difficulty. And I had the New England game at Miami as the easiest.
Okay.
Based on and I think they had the game at New England.
Yep.
Also very high on the list of the easiest games because you figured, this is not a great secret. This was going to be rough for them. And as our good friend Ben Volen told us on the Behind Enemy Lines segment last week, that they're rebuilding and they're bad. And basically this season for the Patriots is about getting Drake May ready to be the starting quarterback in 2025. So that's rough. Jason late Buffalo lost, so that's always nice to see. Yep. That's a rough stretch for the Bills. The schedule did them no favors. They're at Baltimore, they're at Houston, and next Monday night they're at the Jets. And even though the Jets are very good on defense, their offense is highly dysfunctional again.
Let's just look real quick at the division, because the Bills have suddenly lost 2 straight and they don't look Herculean anymore. They rallied late against the Texans, but Josh Allen now 2 straight weeks has gotten the old living hell beaten out of them. Okay, and then you've got the Jets, who still can't put this thing together, and there seems to be a disconnect between Aaron Rodgers and his receivers. The defense is giving up inopportune plays at inopportune times, and I think Robert Saleh might be in some serious trouble here now officially. And the Patriots are just flat out bad. Does 9 wins win the division in 2024?
Again, Buffalo lost back-to-back games. They lost by 3 at Houston, which is a very good team. And the game against Baltimore, don't look at the final score of 35-10. This game was 21-10. Buffalo had scored a touchdown and got the ball back. They were around midfield, and then they had the genius idea of, let's call like the flea flicker with Allen in space. And our old friend Cal Van Noy gets him from the side, and on top of that, he gets whacked. And that completely turned the game around. This is all to say that I think the Bills are still clearly the best team in the division, but they're not unattainable. But I don't know that they're going to go 9-8.
So you're saying 10 wins will get the job done?
Okay, fine.
Okay, good. But I think my point is, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but things have felt real bad. Things have felt dreary in Dolphins land, and it has been sort of a hair-pulling, blast your face into the wall experience to this point. The Dolphins are not dead. By nature of the division, the way things are playing out, the Jets just being the Jets, the Patriots in a rebuild, and the Bills, now we've seen they're flawed a little bit. The Dolphins are not dead. If you can somehow find a stretch of health, maybe there's a chance you make this interesting. Maybe. I'm just trying to be positive. But maybe.
No, I'm shaking my head because I hate always going back to injuries. Like other teams in the NFL don't have injuries.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Buffalo's played the last 3 games without their 2 best defensive players. Without maybe their top 3. Ed Oliver's been out. Now they got Von Miller, who's been suspended for you. Every team deals with it.
Right, but my point is, though, Poop, is that the Dolphins seem incapable of ever overcoming it. Like, that's my point. They have to be, like, top-notch healthy and able to fully maximize or at least present something competent out there on the field. So that's my point, is that they're going to have to get uniformly healthy, which it's still possible, I suppose, but that's what it's going to require, because you're right. Now, one thing I feel heartened by is we've been screaming for physicality. Stop this soft nonsense. And today, for the first time since fourth quarter against Jacksonville, I thought, wait, are they taking it to an opponent? Are they actually moving bodies and bulldozing people on the offensive side of the ball? And for the first time in 5 games, that did happen. But again, that's with Armstead back. And that's with Ingold back. And that's with Mostert back. You miss one of those pieces and everything changes. So I guess what I'm saying is wrap these guys in bubble wrap.
Okay. Who we got next? Noel again. Hey, Noel. Thank you very much. Do you think Tyler ball rotation being different than Tua's causes the wide receivers and issues, or no difference at all? Yeah, it's been brought up by other media members. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I mean, it comes out different. I mean, it spins this way instead of spinning this way.
How about he's no, I'm not doing.
How about if we think about
no, stop. I don't want to do the lefty ball spin nonsense stuff again. Like, I'm not doing that. Tua's Tua. Tyler Huntley's Tyler Huntley. All right. There's a little bit of a separation in terms of quarterbacking ability. Let's just leave it at that. Tyler Huntley's able to row the boat here, keep things afloat, it appears, and let's just leave it at that. Let's leave the physics out of it.
God, I love those deep thoughts like that. And I'm joined by Ken LaVicka, who is Ken LaVicka. By the way, I am Alain Poupart, and who is Alain Poupart. So there we go.
Yeah.
Matt, hey, Matt, thank you very much. Thanks for the stream. How much do you think our problems are talent versus teams adjusting to the Fins offense from last year? Yes. The answer is yes. Mm-hmm. This is a league that's a copycat league, and it's a league of adjustments. You can't fool opposing defenses with what you do on a yearly basis and not expect them to come up with counters to what you do offensively. That's just a fact of life. And defenses have realize that you got to double Tyreek over the top. And then the counter to that is every once in a while, if Tyreek goes up really fast and pushes the defensive backs further, then have him cut inside, and then you can get that long, nice 16, 17-yard completion like we saw today.
So I think it is clear that the league has caught on to the Dolphins offense, okay? And we've talked to death about McDaniel and the arrogance, I suppose, of really not switching anything up, not only for his own team, but different looks against defenses as well. I would say talent-wise, the very top of the Dolphins depth chart, there are very few teams that feature more talent than the Dolphins. Unfortunately, it's not just the top of a depth chart that plays. And I think it is shown very brightly in the fact that backup quarterback, screw it, Skylar Thompson. All these other teams got veritable starters as their backups, but we're fine because we're the Dolphins. So Skylar Thompson's our guy, even though we've had one healthy year of Tua Tagovailoa. And then with the number 3 wide receiver, yes, Odell Beckham made his debut today, but before that, you were going to go with, we're fine. River Craycraft, he got hurt like he usually does. Braxton Berrios, no, he's actually not a dependable receiving option at all. He's just going to stick to punt returns. So let's put Devon Achane there. And then that didn't really work out particularly well. And when Raheem Mostert went out, then they had to move Achane back to the backfield as the featured back. So it's those types of oversights in the offseason when you're speaking of talent where it really shines brightly when you're having to start plugging holes, and that's the biggest deficiency with the Dolphins in my mind. Ponder.
I am pondering as this is what my head shake means. Okay. I'll allow it. Half a point.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Don Shula again. Van Ginkel had another pick 6 today off of Rodgers. Yes, he did. He's having a great year. Remind us who we thought was better to let him go. It wasn't even a question of better to let him go. They never made him an offer. He wanted to stay here. They never made him an offer. Basically, We're moving on. Let's also understand he is in the perfect scheme for him.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible to say that, okay, we've got 2 pick sixes with Minnesota. If you were playing for the Dolphins, look, that's 2 pick sixes they would have had. Not quite that simple. It's a system, and I'm going to open the Brian Flores can again. The dude can coach X's and O's like nobody's business when it comes to defense, and he maxed out. Like, for example, Jerome Baker, to me, never was as good as he was under Flores. Same with Emmanuel Logbo, even though he's playing really, really well so far this year. And the same with Andrew Van Ginkel. So that's what's going on here. But absolutely, to me, why the Dolphins wouldn't even think about re-signing him was I don't know. I don't get it.
There is no question that Van Ginkel is the offseason pickup of the year for the Vikings defense. He has brought an element of intelligence and of range and of just good, solid football to that side. And he's a great fit with that Flores defense, as you were saying, Poop. I mean, it has worked out extremely well. And I thoroughly enjoy watching the Vikings play defense. I like watching the Vikings play.
So much fun to watch.
Yeah. It's wild that they've cobbled that thing together. And I kind of like the Sam Darnold career reinvention, because any human being, any living Homo sapien that heads into that Jets locker room to start their career is automatically, forget starting on third base or second base, having an advantage. You're starting in the parking lot and then trying to maintain a career after that. For Sam Darnold to get a chance 3 stops later to reinvent himself and erase the memories of that Jets debacle, it makes you feel good, because by all accounts, he's capable of doing it, and he's showing it. Like, it's just a great story.
I thought you were going to say that the Jets quarterback started in the dugout. We went even further in the parking lot, man. You sure they don't start where they enter their Uber drive?
Right. Yeah, it's where the car service comes to pick them up.
There you go. Though it wasn't great today, actually. In fact, you might say the Vikings won despite Sam Darnold, because he was not good today.
He was not good, but he did enough early, and he got the help. He got the cushion of the he was going to run it, and that Jets defense is good. He did enough. He really wasn't the Sam Darnold we've seen the first couple of games, but he's done enough to still be considered in that peripheral MVP conversation. Peripheral.
Yeah, it's one of those where, and fans of this podcast, and thank you. I'm going to assume all you who are here joining us are fans of the podcast. Much, much, much appreciated. You've heard me say before, making the case. Similarly, when it comes to the Dolphins, I can't take Sam Darnold seriously as an MVP candidate when there's nobody in the world who would tell you that Justin Jefferson's not the guy. Who's the guy to stop in that offense? But that's just me.
It's a quarterback league, Pope.
That is true. Birthday salami again. Thank you very much. They played a bit better today, but interior line is still going to be what holds back the offense. By the way, is Isaiah Wynn on the Byron Jones rehab program? No, because I actually spotted Isaiah Wynn a couple of times at the facility. It was either before, during, or after practice. I'm not sure. Whereas Byron Jones, I never saw him once. He had that foot injury that basically ended his career. So, no, I don't think it's the same situation. Now, don't ask me exactly when he's going to come off PUP. I don't know. Mike McDaniel's been asked a couple of times, and basically every time he's asked, it's like there's no update.
I don't believe you about Isaiah Wynn until I see grainy Bigfoot-esque footage like you would say, like you would see in the Weekly World News at your local supermarket. I don't believe you until you provide grainy Isaiah Wynn photographic evidence, Poop.
That's funny. Walking around the lake.
right. Walking around, exactly. There's a squatch. It's Isaiah Wynn. So that's good. At least he's physically present. I don't know what that means for his return, but at least he's there.
And by the way, this was also the part where we should remind you the Dolphins still have 6 who are eligible to come off injury lists this week. Cam Smith, River Craycraft, Pat McMorris, who are on IR. Cam Smith practiced all week. The Dolphins downgraded him to out on Saturday. And then they have the other 3 guys remaining on PUP: Bradley Chubb, Cameron Good, and the aforementioned Isaiah Wynn, who are, again, it could be any week. It could be 3 weeks on the line, 7 weeks on the line. We don't know. but they are eligible now. And Tua technically has one more game that he has to sit out on IR. That would be the game after the bye next week. So it would be the October 20th game against the Indianapolis Colts, who lost 37-34 today against the Jaguars, who got their first win of the season, and maybe cool down the heat a little bit. That was falling on head coach Doug Peterson.
Yeah, at least for a little bit. The Colts, I don't know what they are, and I know they're upcoming here for the Dolphins, but I do not know what they are, other than you don't know if you're ever going to see Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco. Which one is it going to be? Because Anthony Richardson is going back to doing that can't stay on the field thing, and he got a little defensive this week when asked about the term injury prone. And sorry, Anthony, but it's a year and a half in, and it's the only term I can think of to describe you, because I haven't seen you really do anything else other than a beautifully thrown long ball touchdown in week 1. I don't know.
Oh, that pass was sick. That was completely sick. No, he's a guy who's got some really, really impressive physical traits, but again, he plays a very reckless style without the body to play that kind of reckless style. In fact, maybe the only quarterback who can play that recklessly with the size to do it, and even with him, it's going to catch up to him at some point, is Josh Allen.
I'm sorry. There we go. I'm sorry.
Oh man, come on!
Faulty wire here. Who is since gonna get to kick our feet up a little bit? Who's the MVP of the Dolphins in what's been a very frustrating season to this point? If you were to pick an MVP, if you were to hand out an award at the facility and say, "Hey, congrats on being the first 5 games MVP," who would it be?
Wow! Holy smoke, that's a good question.
Is it Ogba?
Wow, that's a good question. Damn.
It's hard.
Yeah, there's nobody who really jumps out.
No. You can't even think of anybody that's like deserving, because we were just talking about the Vikings. You could say, is it Sam Darnold or is it Justin Jefferson who makes that whole thing go, right? With the Dolphins, it's who stayed healthy for the entire season to this point.
Well, and then the guys who have played well have been like Calais Campbell's played very well. Steelers played well. Ogba's played well. Jalen Ramsey, for the most part, has played well. And those are the guys. It can't be anybody on offense considering how bad they were for 3 weeks. But I mean,
did you say Holland? I don't know. I might have.
No.
Okay.
Wow. And my instinct would be to say maybe Campbell, except he plays 30 snaps or 35 snaps a game, which is, again, it's understandable because he's 38, but it's not a whole lot of snaps. So I don't.
Yeah. I'm inclined to go someone along the defensive front. Like Ogba does come to mind. Sealer comes to mind. Calais Campbell, I threw him around. I do think it comes from that position group, just because I think that's been as we pointed out earlier, that's been the surprise of the season because of the lack of depth. But also, it may very well be the most productive unit of any unit on either side of the ball for the Dolphins.
No, but that's a very good question. Normally, like the last couple of years, it's always been the debate: is it Tua or is it Tyreek? This time, right. It's wide open. Okay, we are going to do only a couple more. We've been at it for about an hour, and again, thanks everyone so very much for joining Ken LaVicka and I on this All Dolphins podcast live post-game recap. No, sorry. We thought Jason Sanders would be our MVP at this point in the season. No, I mean, he's got the game winner against Jacksonville. That's a big kick, except he's also got like 3 misses.
Right.
So, no, sorry, can't do it. can't do it, Captain. A couple of Julian Hills.
Yeah.
Julian Hill slaps Chris as Julian Hill to the practice squad.
He's becoming the scapegoat. Here's the problem. When you're a backup tight end, for you, a handful of games into a season, to be one of the players that fans are most predominantly pointing out as a problem, you're really standing out because of your mistakes. That is problematic. It's like an offensive lineman. No casuals paying attention to them unless it's flag, or you're getting someone blowing up. Your quarterback is laying flat on his back, motionless. Julian Hill, because he can't stop blowing up big plays with indescribably poor penalties, all of them obvious. that's a significant problem for him. And that is a path to demotion when you're a backup tight end in an offense that really doesn't use the tight end all that much, yet you're a household name because you can't stop holding, can't stop grabbing, can't stop dragging. That's an issue.
Yeah, blockers, generally speaking, if you don't hear about them, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Or unless they have like an unbelievable pancake blocks. But those, to me, I'd rather never hear about you. That means you're doing a good job. And again, this Forte is supposed to be like he's this great blocker, but that's way too many penalties for that.
Yeah.
Some interesting here. Brandon G pointing out there was a bad hold on the Cincinnati kick in overtime. Thank you, Brandon. I wasn't aware of that. I just saw it at the end here. XJ, did Armstead get hurt? We'll have to look into that. I did not notice that.
I feel like that's an eternal question. That's like evergreen. You can ask that every day.
Wow, not nice. And I like Tehran. He's such a good dude. Such a class act, but damn, why do you have to do him like that? That's, man, harsh. Bring up a point here. Roasted Nuts. McDaniel needs to take a page out of Brian Flores' book and find a solution about all these penalties we're getting. How about we bring back the TNT wall? Remember the TNT wall?
I do remember the TNT wall. Are you a big proponent of things like that to guide a large group of professionals, like the TNT wall or sayings or things posted throughout facilities? Are you a fan of that? Do you think that works?
No, but whatever. But here's the thing: it doesn't hurt either. So in the 1 in 1,000 chance that it does work, like that, the TNT wall, for those not familiar, Brian Flores had spray painted or had somebody paint on the wall. Takes no talent, TNT. And players, if they committed like a pre-snap penalty or made a mental mistake in practice, they would sprint across the practice field and go touch the wall. Again, if it implants a thought in a player's head for one time out of 17 games to save a penalty, a mental mistake, it's worth it, because if it doesn't cost anything. Plus, it gives us writers something to write about.
All right, so how about let's just set up, like we've been bagging on Julian Hill. Let's help him. Let's set up the SFH wall. Stop bleeping holding, and every time in practice he grabs a jersey and he impedes the progress of a lineman. He runs across the field, he slaps the SFH wall, and then heads back. I'm good with that if that's going to help him. Stop bleeping holding.
That works. So maybe then SBH.
Yeah.
I'm very technical. We got here Zenman. How are you, Zenman? Thank you very much for the contribution. Enjoying the commentary from you and Mr. LaVicka. Mr. LaVicka. Sorry,
thank you, Mr. Zenman.
During this tough season, does your photographic memory apply to other aspects of life beyond football? Yes, it does. Sadly, it's one of the few gifts I have in life. You can ask my wife. She'll tell you I'll come up with the most random names, the actor in the movie from 1973, things of that nature.
Yeah, you are well-versed. You're someone who I imagine is very good at crossword puzzles.
Okay.
I like trivia things. I get that from my father. I'm not as photographic memory-wise as Poop is, but if you need to know anything about either of the Ghostbusters movies, the real ones, 1 and 2, the originals, then we can talk for hours.
Oh, really? No, I may have to shut off your connection here because you just lost me here. Full disclosure, I had not seen Ghostbusters, I don't know, until 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe it just didn't age well. I saw the movie and it was like, what the hell was the big deal? I'll give you another one that everybody likes, and I saw it and I was like, I'm sorry, it's really just not that funny, is Princess Bride. I'm like, can't be nice.
No. I'm with you on Princess Bride. But I'm still trying to get over the offense that I've taken over your assessment of Ghostbusters. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is one of the single most glorious movie characters of all time. I mean, the man, I don't know if it's a man. It's an entity. Stomps through New York City, smile on his face, sadistic this thing, only to get melted by proton packs as he tries to climb a high-priced Upper West Side condo in New York City. How do you not love that, Poop? Come on.
Think of what you just said, and then realize that the absurdity of you asking me how can and for me, for big puffy marshmallow people who are like the characters, I'll take
Pillsbury Doughboy.
No, somebody in my household, they would say, "Help me here, Big Hero 6, Baymax." There you go.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty good, but that you've got to be of a certain age. It's a different type of movie. I'm gonna say.
What? I love Baymax, and I'm an old geezer. So sorry. Okay. Matt O. Jake Bailey. Unit is bad, but he has been good. However, he has been mostly good, except he had a bad, I think it was 26 yards punt last week right before halftime, which allowed the Tennessee Titans to complete that one pass down the middle, spike it, and get a field goal. And even if it's 10 yards further, chances are Tennessee doesn't get a crack at that field goal. But overall, it's been good.
Here's my issue, though, with a punter being MVP. Just because a punter makes a lot of appearances doesn't mean that he's an MVP. You better be blasting at 55 yards each time you're out there and pinning inside the 10 each time you have an opportunity, and he has not been doing that. So, no, I don't think he's in the MVP conversation.
No, and for a punter to be MVP, you have to be. I remember one game I could say Dolphins don't win that game without a punter, and it was Brandon Fields against the Jets in New York on a windy day where he was completely sick. I want to say it was like 2010 maybe. But the Dolphins, I mean, again, did nothing offensively. I love this question, Zenman. Thank you very much. Expos or Habs?
I'll sit this one out.
Yeah. All the way, baby. And this is from somebody who – you guys probably know I've said my age before, so it's like I was a teenager when the Montreal Canadiens in the 70s won the Stanley Cup 6 times in 10 years. 6 times in 10 years. And yet always the Expos was always number one for me. Part of the reason is I was there, not technically there, but I was alive when the team came into existence in 1969. I remember their first game at Shea Stadium against the Mets, so I grew up with them through the tough times and all that. So Expos all the way, which is why my most devastating sports memory ever, nothing will ever match it, was the day they canceled the 1994 season, which is why baseball is dead to me. I like the game of baseball, but the sport can kiss my behind.
Did baseball die with the strike or with the Expos moving to DC?
No, the strike, because if you remember when they came back from the strike, all of a sudden Expos management, since they all of a sudden had a lot of free agency, did not have the money whatsoever, and it became a fire sale. Like all their good players wound up being sold off. John Wetland, who was a fabulous reliever, wound up either being traded to the Yankees. Ken Hill, Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, all those guys were dumb because they just didn't want to pay for them. So
I see some people, by the way, who say the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man would be a great left guard, and I do concur with that. Also, I would say that Slimer would be a phenomenal safety. That dude has elite skills pursuing the ball and or a burger and or a type of food. He's aggressive. He's not afraid to hit you right in the chest like he did to Peter Venkman in the hotel scene in Ghostbusters 1. So I could just keep going down the line. You tell me a character, and I'm going to put him on the football field somewhere.
Okay. That's funny. EJ, how are you, EJ? Thank you very much for the contribution. How about some new terms? Replace facility with resort. TNT with SFU. Thank you for talking me down. Okay. All righty then.
I'll make the suggestion.
By the way, Mike, EJ would like to see if you would consider these. Okay, just a couple more here. We're going to wrap it up. You
know what I am happy for you about, though? You don't have to walk into media availability this week with fans tweeting at you, make sure to tell Mike McDaniel that he knows that we hate him. Because you've been deluged with that over the last couple of weeks. And trust me, there is no media member that is going to say, Mike, do you know that fans hate you now? That's not part of Poop's job or Mark Kelly's job or anybody's job who covers that team.
But he was asked, and before in training camp, and even after they got to 1-3, about being aware of the fan reaction of what's going on. So it's not like he's not been asked, but we're not going to ask him like, Hey, the fans want to know why you suck so much. I mean, seriously, come on. By the way, another one.
Oh,
Sorry,
another
one I want to address because this has come up. This idea of like, well, hey, Teron is back. Let's use Patrick Paul as left guard. Patrick Paul is 6'8". Playing the interior of the offensive line requires leverage. Tough to get leverage at 6'8". You also have to have more power than athleticism when you're playing a tackle. And Patrick Paul at 6'8" plays guard. A big one of those big uglies gets his pads under Patrick Paul. He's going to ride him into the backfield.
Right. It's over.
It's not that simple.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how big he is. And in fact, it becomes a detriment in that spot. You're exactly right.
Correct. That's why there are certain prototypes for positions. For example, I always said from the start, Raekwon Davis is not built to be a nose tackle because he's way too tall. It's easy. It's tough for him to get leverage because he's like 6'8".
Yeah.
Okay. To me, he's a pure 3-4 defensive end or 4-3 defensive tackle. He's not a nose tackle. But what do I know? Very little, as I've proved once again in this hour on this live post-game recap of the All Dolphins podcast with my good buddy here, Ken LaVicka. On that note, I think it's a great note on which to end it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And we will catch everyone tomorrow, Monday, which will be October 7th. Ken, as always, thank you very much, my friend.
Poop, we'll talk Vigo the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2 next post-game show we do.
Vigo Christensen, the actor, that was good. That was a great movie, A History of Violence, by the way. That's a great movie.
Wrong guy, but fine. I'll talk about him too.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, everyone.